What made my entire family turn against me after I refused to gain 40 pounds for my pregnant sister-in-law? The request itself, which was not a joke, which was delivered at a family dinner with a PowerPoint presentation my MIL had prepared on her iPad. My sister-in-law Kennedy is 7 months pregnant. She is glowing. She is also the kind of pregnant woman who has turned gestation into a competitive sport and expects every person in the family to participate as a supporting athlete in the Olympic event of her reproduction. Kennedy's pregnancy has restructured my husband's family the way a renovation restructures a house. Furniture moved, walls torn down, everyone reoriented around the new addition. The family group chat is 90% ultrasound photos and 10% Kennedy announcing things she can no longer eat, do, wear, or tolerate. Each announcement delivered with the gravity of a press release from the World Health Organization. When Kennedy said the smell of coffee made her nauseous, my MIL Diane stopped brewing coffee before family events. When Kennedy said she was retaining water and feeling self-conscious, Diane suggested the family wear supportive, body-positive clothing to Easter, which apparently meant nothing fitted. I wore a sundress. Kennedy cried. Diane called my husband and said, "Your wife wore a bodycon dress to Easter." It was a sundress from Target. The body at Pond was wearing SPF 50 and eating a deviled egg. 3 weeks ago, Diane called a family meeting. She said, "Kennedy is struggling emotionally with the physical changes of pregnancy. She needs solidarity from the women in this family." She opened her iPad. She had a presentation, slides, bullet points, a title page that said, "Project Solidarity, Supporting Kennedy's Journey." I wish I were exaggerating. Each woman in the family, me, my husband's sister Tara, and Diane herself, would participate in sympathetic weight gain to help Kennedy feel less alone in her body's transformation. Sympathetic weight gain. Diane's target was 15 pounds. Tara's target was 20. My target was 40. I said, "Why is my target 40? Diane said, "Because you're the thinnest." Kennedy says looking at you makes her feel worse about herself. If you gained weight, she'd feel more comfortable at family events. My husband Wesley was staring at his plate. Tara was nodding the way a person nods when they have already agreed to something insane, because disagreeing requires a confrontation they cannot afford. Kennedy was at the end of the table with her hands on her belly, watching me, waiting. I said, "I'm not gaining 40 pounds. Diane said, "It's temporary. After the baby is born, you can lose it." I said, "You want me to gain 40 pounds, intentionally, medically, unnecessarily, so Kennedy feels better about her pregnancy body at family dinners?" Kennedy said, "It's not a big deal. You'd still look fine." She said I'd still look fine, as though my body is a resource she gets to allocate. I said, "Kennedy, I support you completely. I will attend every appointment. I will throw the shower. I will hold your hand in the delivery room if you want, but I am not gaining 40 pounds so you feel less self-conscious at Easter." Diane's face hardened. She said, "This is exactly the kind of selfishness I was afraid of. A woman declining to gain 40 pounds for the psychological comfort of another adult is selfishness in Diane's framework." Slide 7 of the presentation was titled Anticipated Resistance. They had a slide for my refusal. My body was a variable in their project plan. The fallout was immediate. Diane called every family member, described me as unsupportive and vain, and unwilling to make a small sacrifice for a pregnant woman. Tara gained 12 pounds in 2 weeks. She said, "I'm just eating more. It's not that bad." She said it the way a hostage reads a script. Flat. Rehearsed. My MIL texted me daily. "Kennedy cried again today. I hope you're proud of yourself. Tara is already showing solidarity. Why can't you?" The whole family is talking about it. The whole family. Talking about me. Because I will not gain 40 pounds. Because a pregnant woman's insecurity has been converted by her mother-in-law into a household policy that requires other women to alter their physical form. Kennedy texted me, "I hope when you're pregnant someday, someone makes you feel as small as you've made me feel." She used the word small in a conversation about asking me to gain 40 pounds. The irony was so structurally perfect, it could have been designed by an architect. Then Kennedy's husband Brett, my brother-in-law, called me. He has never called me directly. He said, "I need to tell you something before Diane spins it." Kennedy's OB called yesterday. Her weight gain has been flagged as excessive. She's gained 61 pounds at 7 months. The doctor is concerned about gestational diabetes and preeclampsia. He said, "Kennedy's been eating for the Solidarity Project too. Diane has been bringing her extra food every day and telling her it's bonding with the other women. Kennedy has been overeating for 3 weeks because Diane told her the whole family was gaining together and she should keep pace." I said, "Diane told Kennedy that we were gaining weight, so Kennedy should too?" Brett said, "Diane created the project ostensibly for Kennedy's emotional comfort, but the effect is that Kennedy is eating more because she thinks everyone else is. The solidarity isn't supporting Kennedy. It's enabling a dangerous pattern, and Diane is the one filling the plates." Diane did not create the Solidarity Project to help Kennedy. She created it to normalize excessive intake so that Kennedy's weight gain, which the doctor was now flagging, would look like a group activity instead of a medical concern. If every woman gains weight, Kennedy's gain disappears into the average. Diane was hiding the complication inside a crowd. I said, "Why are you telling me? Why not Wesley? Why not just go to Diane yourself?" Brett was quiet. Then he said, "Because if I bring it to Diane, she'll twist it." The doctor said Kennedy should slow down on carbs, and Diane told Kennedy in the car afterward that doctors always say that and it doesn't mean anything. So Diane went to a medical appointment with her daughter-in-law. A trained professional looked at Kennedy's numbers and said slow down. And Diane, a woman whose highest medical qualification is owning an iPad with a PowerPoint app, told Kennedy to ignore it, overruled a doctor in a parking lot, and Kennedy believed her because Diane has spent 7 months building a world where Diane's voice is the only one that sounds like love. This wasn't about me anymore. It was never really about me, but now the pretense was gone completely. Brett said, "Kennedy can't know I called you. If she finds out, Diane will use it to make Kennedy feel betrayed by both of us. I need you to find a way to get this information to Kennedy without it looking like it came from me." He was asking me, the woman Kennedy currently blamed for making her feel small, the woman Diane had spent 3 weeks painting as selfish and vain, to somehow deliver critical medical information to Kennedy in a way that Kennedy would actually hear. Me, the villain of the PowerPoint. If I went to Kennedy directly, Diane would frame it the way she frames everything. She'd say I was trying to control Kennedy's eating because I refused to participate. She'd say I was jealous or spiteful or trying to body shame a pregnant woman, and from Kennedy's angle, that story would make sense. Diane wasn't standing between Kennedy and the truth with a weapon. She was standing there with a plate of food and a smile, and that's so much harder to see around. I called Wesley, told him everything. The 61 pounds, the doctor, Diane bringing food every day, Diane telling Kennedy the warnings didn't mean anything, the appointment in 4 days. He didn't say anything for a long time. Then he said, "My mom has been bringing Kennedy food every day?" I said yes. He said, "She told me she was just visiting, keeping Kennedy company." The kind of silence that happens when someone realizes their mother looked them in the face and lied. Just a quiet, everyday lie about why she was driving to Brett and Kennedy's house with bags of groceries. Wesley said, "I'm calling her, right now." I said, "If you call your mom right now, she'll call Kennedy. She'll frame it as us attacking her. We need Kennedy to hear the medical facts from someone she trusts who isn't your mother." He said, "Then we go to Kennedy. We sit her down and tell her what Brett said." Then my phone buzzed. Wesley's phone buzzed. Family group chat. Diane. "Family dinner this Saturday. Kennedy has an announcement. I hope everyone will be there to support her, even those who haven't shown support so far." Everyone in capital letters. The word that pointed directly at me. It was a trap built out of a text and a Saturday dinner and the word announcement. If we said no, the whole family would watch us refuse to support Kennedy again. If we said yes, we would be walking into whatever Diane had set up. I texted Brett privately. "Did you know about this dinner?" He responded in a minute. "No, Diane planned it without telling me. She does this. She schedules things and tells Kennedy it was Kennedy's idea. That's not normal family stuff. That's someone rewriting a pregnant woman's reality in real time. Kennedy thinks she decided to have a family dinner. Kennedy thinks the announcement is her idea. But Diane built the stage and wrote the script." The next morning, Tara called. She sounded exhausted. She said, "I've gained 14 pounds now. I'm not sleeping well. My clothes don't fit. Diane keeps saying Kennedy needs us to keep going until the birth. That's 2 more months." She was calling me because she needed someone to tell her this wasn't normal. I made a decision. Tara was already in this. She deserved to know. I told her about Kennedy's weight gain, the doctor's concern, the dietary intervention, Diane bringing food, Diane telling Kennedy to ignore the warnings. The line went quiet. Then Tara said, "Diane told me Kennedy's doctor said everything was perfect. She said Kennedy was the healthiest pregnant woman the doctor had ever seen. That's what she said last week." Diane lied to Tara's face. She lied to get Tara to keep gaining. She lied because if Tara knew the doctor was worried, Tara might stop and the whole framework would crack. Tara said, "I can't be the one. You don't understand what she's like when you challenge her. She doesn't yell. She just slowly makes your life impossible until you apologize." Diane doesn't fight. Diane operates like weather. She changes the temperature of every room. She rearranges who gets invited and who gets called and who gets the version of events that makes you the problem. She waits. She applies pressure the way water wears down rock, slowly and constantly, until you either break or apologize, and either outcome works for her because both mean she wins. Tara was not going to confront Diane. Brett was not going to confront Diane. Wesley would back me up, but Diane would dismiss him. If anyone was going to stop this, it had to be me. The woman Diane had spent 3 weeks calling selfish. It had to happen at Saturday's dinner, because that was where the whole family would be in one room, and Diane would not be able to pick us off one by one. Everyone would hear the same truth at the same time. Wesley and I planned at our table. Real planning. We would go to the dinner. We would let Diane have her moment. And then, when the table was calm, I would share what Brett told me. Calmly. Factually. Just the numbers. Wesley said, "If it comes from my mom's favorite target, it'll be harder for her to dismiss as jealousy." He said it without flinching, like it was just a fact now. Saturday morning came. We drove to Brett and Kennedy's house. The house was full of warm light and the smell of food. So much food. The counters were covered with dishes. A roast, rolls, 3 side dishes, a cake that said, "We love you, Kennedy," in pink frosting. Kennedy was at the table when we walked in. She looked tired. The real kind. The kind where your body is doing something enormous and nobody is letting you rest because they keep throwing dinners and making announcements. Diane was everywhere. Hostess mode. Moving between the counter and the dining room like she was directing a stage production, which, in a way, she was. She put plates in front of people before they asked. She refilled glasses. Then I watched her do it. Diane walked behind Kennedy's chair with a serving spoon and added a second portion of pasta to Kennedy's plate. Kennedy did not look up. Kennedy did not say thank you. It was automatic. Diane was not force-feeding anyone. She was just being helpful. She was just being attentive. If you said it out loud to anyone who didn't know the context, they'd say that's sweet. Nobody would see the doctor's notes behind it. Nobody would see the 61 pounds. Then Diane stood up. The room rearranged itself around her. She smiled at Kennedy. She said, "I have wonderful news. Kennedy has agreed to let me be her birth partner in the delivery room. We've been talking and we both feel that having me there will give Kennedy the emotional support she needs. I'll be her primary support person during labor." And then Diane looked at me. Right at me. The way you look at someone when you want them to know that what just happened was for them. Because I was the one who told Kennedy I would hold her hand in the delivery room. I said that at the original dinner, the PowerPoint dinner. I said I would be there in every way that mattered, and Diane had taken it. She had quietly replaced me. The one genuine act of support I put on the table, Diane picked up and put her name on it. This dinner wasn't about Kennedy's announcement. It was always about Diane. Diane in the delivery room. Diane between Kennedy and her doctor. Diane between Brett and his wife. Diane at the center of everything. Brett looked at me. He mouthed 2 words. "Say it." I took a breath. I said, "That's a beautiful plan, Diane. Before we celebrate, I have a question. How much weight has Kennedy gained so far?" The table went still. Diane's smile froze. She said, "That's a private matter." I said, "You made it a family matter when you assigned us target weights on a PowerPoint. So how much has Kennedy gained?" Kennedy said, "About 45 pounds. That's normal." I said, "Brett, what did Kennedy's doctor say at the last appointment?" Brett put his fork down. He looked at Kennedy. He said, "The doctor flagged your weight gain at 61 pounds. She's concerned about gestational diabetes and preeclampsia. She wants to discuss a dietary plan at your next appointment." Kennedy's face changed. The look a person gets when a fact they were told and a fact that's true turn out to be 2 different things. She said, "That's not, the doctor said I was fine. Your mom told me." She stopped. She looked at Diane. Diane said, "The doctor was being overly cautious. I've been through pregnancies. I know what's normal." I said, "Diane, have you been bringing Kennedy extra food every day?" She said, "I've been cooking for her. That's what family does." I said, "Have you been even telling her that the rest of us are gaining weight alongside her so she should keep pace? Diane hesitated. Half a second. A tiny pause that meant nothing if you were not watching for it. Kennedy said, you told me everyone was eating more. You said the whole family was doing this together. You said my doctor was just being careful because of liability. Diane said, I was protecting you from unnecessary anxiety. Stress is worse for the baby than a few extra pounds. Brett said, a few extra pounds? She's 20 pounds over what the doctor recommended. And you told her the doctor said everything was perfect. Tara spoke. Her voice was shaking. She said, you told me Kennedy was the healthiest pregnant woman the doctor had ever seen. That's what you said last week. I gained 14 pounds because you told me Kennedy needed solidarity. But Kennedy's doctor is worried and you knew. Diane stood up. Her finger was shaking. She said, this is what she does. She comes into this family and she tears it apart. She refused to support Kennedy and now she's turning all of you against me. I was trying to help. Wesley stood up slowly, like a man who had been sitting with something heavy and was finally putting it down. He said, Mom, you made a PowerPoint asking my wife to gain 40 pounds. You texted her every day telling her Kennedy was crying because of her. You lied to Kennedy about what her doctor said. You lied to Tara. You lied to me when I asked why you were visiting Kennedy every day. None of that is helping. That is controlling. Kennedy was crying now. Not the kind Diane reported in her guilt texts. Real crying. She said, is the baby okay? Did the doctor say the baby is okay? Diane said, the baby is fine. Everyone is overreacting. Brett said, the doctor wants to run additional tests on Monday. Kennedy pushed her plate away. The plate Diane had filled twice without being asked. She looked at Diane. She said, you've been here every single day telling me to eat more while my doctor is worried about my baby. I want you to leave. Now. Diane said, Kennedy, I am the only person at this table who has been here for you every single day. Kennedy said, I want you to leave. Diane walked to the door. She turned back and looked at me. Her eyes were hard and wet at the same time. She said, you think you've won something? I did not say anything. There was nothing to win. A pregnant woman had just found out that the person she trusted most had been hiding a medical concern behind casserole dishes and PowerPoint slides. That is not what winning looks like. Kennedy's Monday appointment confirmed early indicators of gestational diabetes. The doctor put her on a managed eating plan. Brett called me that evening. His voice sounded lighter than it had in weeks. He said, Kennedy wants to talk to you. She's not ready yet, but she told me to tell you thank you. Tara texted me a photo of a bag of donated clothes, the bigger sizes she bought for the Solidarity Project. The caption said, dropping these off tomorrow, getting my body back. Wesley held my hand on the couch that night. He said, my mom hasn't called. I said, she will. He said, yeah, she will. We sat with that. The quiet felt different now. Not peaceful exactly, but honest. The kind of quiet that exists when the lie has left the room and everyone is still figuring out what the furniture looks like without it.